Today, we will explore some of the most disturbing serial killers in modern history and the stories behind their crimes. Albert Fish. Albert Fish is often considered one of the most disturbing criminals in American history. He was born in 1870 in Washington, D.C., and experienced a difficult childhood. His father was much older and died when Fish was still young. His mother struggled to support the family and eventually placed him in an orphanage. Fish later claimed that he was frequently abused there, an experience that may have contributed to the development of his violent tendencies. As an adult, Fish appeared to live a normal life. He worked various jobs, married, and had children. However, behind this ordinary appearance was a deeply disturbed mind. Fish committed a number of violent crimes and targeted children in particular. One of his most infamous crimes involved Grace Budd, a 10-year-old girl from New York. In 1928, Fish convinced Grace's parents that he would take their daughter to a birthday party. Instead, he kidnapped and murdered her. Years later, Fish wrote a horrifying letter to Grace's mother, describing the crime in disturbing detail. This letter eventually helped investigators trace him. In 1934, Albert Fish was arrested. During the investigation, police discovered that he had committed several other murders. He was later executed in the electric chair. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy videos about true crime, history, and disturbing mysteries. H. Holmes. H. Holmes is often described as America's first famous serial killer. He was born Herman Webster Mudgett in 1861 and later adopted the name H. Holmes. Holmes moved to Chicago during the late 1800s and began constructing a strange building that later became known as the Murder Castle. The building looked like an ordinary hotel from the outside, but inside it was something very different. It contained hidden staircases, secret rooms, trapdoors, and soundproof chambers. Some rooms were designed so that victims could not escape. Holmes used the building to lure victims, especially young women who were visiting Chicago during the 1893 World's Fair. Many of these people were never seen again. Holmes was eventually arrested after committing insurance fraud, but investigators soon began uncovering evidence linking him to multiple murders. His trial shocked the entire country. In 1896, Holmes was executed. His story remains one of the earliest and most disturbing serial killer cases in American history. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is one of the most infamous serial killers of the 20th century. Unlike many criminals, Bundy appeared intelligent, charismatic, and even charming. He studied psychology in college and later attended law school. Because of his polite personality and friendly appearance, many people found it hard to believe he could be capable of violence. However, during the 1970s, Bundy began committing a series of murders targeting young women across several states in the United States. He often pretended to be injured in order to gain sympathy. For example, he would wear a fake cast or crutches and ask women for help carrying items to his car. Once they approached him, he would attack them. Bundy's crimes triggered one of the largest manhunts in American history. He was eventually arrested in 1975. Incredibly, Bundy managed to escape from prison twice, which only increased public fascination with the case. After being captured again, he was tried and sentenced to death. In 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in Florida. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer became known as the Milwaukee Cannibal. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer committed a series of murders that shocked the world. Dahmer often targeted young men and lured them to his apartment with promises of money or photography work. Once there, he would drug his victims before attacking them. When police finally searched his apartment in 1991, they discovered evidence that shocked even experienced investigators. The apartment contained disturbing items connected to his crimes. The case received enormous media attention because of the horrifying details that emerged during the investigation. Dahmer was arrested and later sentenced to multiple life sentences in prison. In 1994, he was killed by another inmate, Andrei Chikatilo. Andrei Chikatilo became known as the Butcher of Rostov. During the 1970s and 1980s, he committed a series of murders in the Soviet Union. His crimes lasted for more than a decade before he was finally caught. At the time, Soviet law enforcement had very little experience dealing with serial killers. This made the investigation extremely difficult. Police often arrested the wrong suspects and struggled to identify patterns in the crimes. Eventually, investigators began using psychological profiling to understand the killer. In 1990, Chikatilo was finally arrested after a long investigation. He later confessed to numerous murders. In 1994, he was executed. His case forced Soviet authorities to develop new investigative methods. John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy became known as the Killer Clown. To the outside world, Gacy appeared to be a successful businessman and an active member of his community. He even entertained children at parties while dressed as a clown. However, behind this friendly public image was a dark secret. Gacy murdered a number of young men and teenagers during the 1970s. Many of his victims were buried in the crawl space beneath his own house. When police finally searched the property, they discovered a horrifying scene. The case shocked the entire United States. In 1994, John Wayne Gacy was executed. Pedro Rodrigues Filho, also known as Pedrinho Matador, became one of the most infamous criminals in Brazil. Unlike many other serial killers, many of his victims were criminals themselves. Rodrigues claimed that he targeted people who had committed serious crimes. He began committing murders at a very young age and continued for many years. At one point, he was believed to have killed dozens of people, including several inmates, while he was already in prison. His story became widely known in Brazil and remains one of the most unusual serial killer cases in the world.